two-party system? And the second is, how long until you write a book called A Tragic Legacy about Obama?
I think I'm in the process of writing that book, just kind of chapter by chapter. The first question was, I'm sorry?
Is it possibly speed?
Yeah. You know, I think it gets back to what we talked a little bit about earlier, which is, on the one hand, I think that people who march under the banner of pragmatism as a means of justifying being unprincipled deserve lots of criticism and mockery. On the other hand, I think people who wed themselves too firmly to principle at the expense of pragmatic considerations, at least in this particular climate at this time, are also acting irresponsibly. And so the question then becomes, how is it that you can vindicate your principles while at the same time not taking leave of the realm of the practical? And so if you were to, and I'll just address the two-party systems question as directly as I can, I mean, one of the things that I always find most striking is that Noam Chomsky, who's as radical of a critic of our political culture and hates both parties with equal vigor, it surprises a lot of people, but if you ask him, like, do you care at all what the outcome of the presidential election is in both 2004 and 2008? He said, yeah, I care a lot. I think it's important that the Democrats win, because even though the Democrats are just simply the sort of slightly modulated branch of the same corporate party, in a political system as powerful and vast and consequential as ours is, even tiny, minute differences can make a huge impact in people's lives. So, I'll just give you an example. Like, the Democrats got into office, and after Obama was inaugurated, and they implemented legislation to expand health insurance for children, and they expanded it pretty dramatically. They passed a law that made it a lot easier for employees who are the victims of gender discrimination not to have the courthouse doors closed in their face. So we can talk about all of the fundamental critiques that make the Democrats and the Republicans not only seem quite similar, but be quite similar, as we've been doing. At the same time, I think it's important that, to the children who are now covered by health insurance, instead of remaining unable to access health care, and to the women who are now able to recover for the discrimination rather than having the courthouse doors slammed in their face, those differences are not inconsequential. And so, even though they may be inconsequential, if you look at the political system from a very broad view. So to me, the question always is, on the one hand, if you support a third party, and the implication of that is that you then help the party that's slightly worse, that's a pretty bad thing that you've done, right? Like, if you could convince lots of people who voted for Ralph Nader in 2000 that had they not voted for Ralph Nader, had they voted for Al Gore instead, that there would have been no George Bush and no Iraq War. I'm not saying that is true. I'm saying if that were true and you could convince them of that, I think some of them at least would regret their vote. At the same time, there's an important argument to make that the two-party system is extremely corrupt, and that if you participate in it and constantly convey to the parties that no matter what they do, they're going to have your vote because the other party's just ever so slightly worse, what you're really doing is further entrenching a really horrible system. And if you're never willing to say, you know what, there's a line that you can't cross, and there's a time when I'm going to think that doing something different, besides lending my undying support to you on the grounds that you're just a little bit less worse, that time is going to come, and that can either change the political class and the way they think in terms of taking people for granted, or if you actually go and do it, maybe achieve something positive, I think that that too is a legitimate consideration. I just think the important thing is that it be grounded in considerations of outcome, whether long or short term, and I'm not going to get involved in that because that's just a little bit too dirty and a little bit too lowly for my lofty standards. And I think that